So, The Lion King. This is a movie I watched pretty late in my life personally. It's not exactly a childhood production for me, but even still, I would go on to say that it's kind of a spiritual experience that ascends humanity. That original story was something really special somehow. Clearly, it made a lot of money, so it must have hacked onto something. Even still, I've now seen, of course, the original animation and the photorealistic remake, and also the musical as well. But this is a live-action original sequel. Of any movie that Disney is really making in recent years, this could be the one that has the potential to really go far. I mean, imagine if Disney had plans for all of their live-action remakes. Opening up the idea of actually telling both original stories and photorealistic CGI live-action hybrid remakes could be a really interesting new venture, and this would be the first stepping stone for it. I finally got to see the movie today in cinemas, but I'm also technically at home for Christmas, so I'm coming to you live from beneath a duvet. However, this, Mufasa, the Lion King, this isn't it. This is palatable. With the original, I would say that this is one of Disney's greatest original stories, and Mufasa is just not up to par. It is both a sequel and a prequel, cutting back and forth from within a cave, whereby we see the daughter Kiara, Rafiki, Timon and Pumbaa put into a scene together pretty much the whole way through. Clearly, Timon and Pumbaa being the mandated comic relief, it doesn't work. All of the jokes they say are bad, and Rafiki being in a scene with this kind of comedic humor just clashes in a way that I feel completely falls apart. He shouldn't really be a character that's face-palming at the reaction of others, you know? At least not in my mind. The best line they could come up with was a reference to the musical of Lion King. And even then, it was because it was a reference, not a gag. These two came out more like Deadpool than anything we've ever seen from them before, and it really felt just ham-fisted in. But that's just the first complaint up front about the jokes, something that's not really at all attached to the whole narrative as a whole, when you think about it. The actual main plot itself is okay. It kind of has Lion King 1.5 vibes, and it's a shame because there's actually a lot of interesting material they could have taken from like the DVD sequels. There's a brilliant song about what happened to Scar's son in that one song sequence. They're not prevalent in this future. So the actual story is about a story being told to Kiara about the story of Mufasa. You following so far? Mufasa's family are searching for the mythical lands of Malele. Mufasa has a happy childhood opening, then he loses his family in a flood, and then we skip ahead in time. Already an immediate knockback to what I would have expected to go through. A good conflict I could see happening would be Mufasa searching for his family, or at least having some sort of conflict over what he wants to do immediately afterwards. But instead, after coming off of the river that was the remains of that flooding, he meets with Scar's royal family and lives with them, immediately montaging along, aging him up, and touching on pretty much every story beat it could in a way that continues to feel just like mandates, including, for example, a full constellation face in the sky for about 5 seconds. Completely unearned and completely unclarified. And I thought for the first time it was the mother, you know? And even then, that would have been like oh man, why didn't they show more of the death of the parents? It's kind of vague. It's not very well done in that sense. But either way, they don't go into it any further. It's there briefly, and it doesn't come back again. Not really. To me, just that tiny little 5-second shot opens up way more questions than gets anywhere to telling us a story. From a first-time watch, you don't see the parents die. We just time jump, and then we're just told that they're dead by the sky? Like, how does Mufasa know that? How does he react to their death? And why does this come through so very quickly? It's a montage within like the first 10 minutes of the film. Immediately into the story, and then doesn't really return again. To me, Lion King is one of those stories that can kind of ascend the human experience with its undertones in spirituality. It's not entirely gone in this movie, with Rafiki still having visions and the like, but the real spirit behind the circle of life, a story bigger than oneself, it's not here this time. This is more like just a grounded action story of the lions, with a little bit of songs in there to make it a musical. They may talk about generations and ancestors, but it doesn't hold that feel of the meaning of it all. The magic this time around is just simply muted, and that magic is what I feel defines Lion King as so good in the first place. So Mufasa integrates with a rival pride and develops more kingly skills, earning their respect and gaining the ability of spider sense. Can lions really sense species from so far away? Alright, I'll put it down to the spirits. Or just being raised by females? I don't know the logic. From there, the pride is attacked, Mufasa and Taka go on the run, kind of surprising that the king that hates Mufasa's rivalry brings only him in the last second after years of discontent, but hey. plot. And as the gang is built seeing old classics like Sarabi, Rafiki, and Zazu, no longer voiced by John Oliver, you can tell it's all to be this slow build-up and betrayal between Mufasa and Scar to be. That's also not that well demonstrated. Clearly, Mufasa has a kingly attitude despite being astray. Brave, kind, confident, whereas Taka is cowardly but royal-blooded. Nice, cool. The resentment doesn't really build over time though. It clearly can, but they just don't show it that way. Every time Mufasa has a success, we don't cut to Taka's changing reaction. Taka barely seems to notice that Mufasa is the confident one, just watching normally when it happens. No retrospective going on there, really. In fact, there's definitively a point where there's at least 3 scenes in a row of Mufasa taking the lead and getting W's and having these great accomplishments, and Taka is there, not even saying dialogue in any of these scenes. It was to the point I was expecting us to flash back to those scenes to reveal Taka's hidden emotions and reactions behind the scenes, but no, he just vanished for like 15 minutes narratively because Mufasa's gotta grow. In fact, the big betrayal takes place, what do you know, right at the end and all at once. Sarabi learns that Mufasa saved her life and they romantically sing to each other, to which Taka notices, and that's the final straw. No conflict of personality or destiny, just another love triangle. And with not enough focus. Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come along and subscribe if you want to hear any new animated movie reviews. Alright, back to the rest of the Mufasa Lion King remake review of ours. Whew. There's songs throughout, so a slightly less grounded action movie. The songs as well aren't fantastic. I certainly forgot them all. It may be Lin-Manuel Miranda, but it's just not the same iconic twangs. They try stuff with the villain song going, bye-bye. It's just not really fitting though, is it? I didn't like it. There are highlights, usually just referencing a song from the original, but none of it is a home run by itself. Speaking of referencing, even those are strangely done. Hinting at Mufasa's death with the claws on the cliff sequence, because of course you gotta reference that, but they do it twice. Not 3 times like a good narrative would suggest. Just twice. At the start and at the end. Crazy to imagine your death being foreshadowed from when you were a child. And so, after several days traveling on the run, the finale takes place at the Pride Lands. I guess full spoilers of this territory, you can probably guess the plotline. Where suddenly, every animal is readying to join the fight with a small dose of hesitation. A nice message of community, but also not explored nearly enough. An earthquake appears, as Rafiki's prophecy foretold. Why? Because all of the animals are stamping? Is that it? It's kinda cool that the destruction builds Pride Rock, but again, what's going on? And as Taka's betrayal manifests from bringing the villains to Mufasa, he goes back on himself slightly, earning him his scar. Okay, it's played like a giant moment, but surely this is the most predictable bit. We knew his name as Scar otherwise. I feel it could have been more impactful if maybe Mufasa was the one to do it or something. And the final boss is defeated by both lions together and also a deep body of water and a rock. Happy days. Mufasa is made king. I like that it's earned. I do think it was crazy formulaic that like 4 characters wait in line to talk to Mufasa afterwards as a celebration piece. But the final one reveals to be his mother. Whoa. That explains why everyone in the Pride Lands knows his name. Cool. But we also learn here, and only here, that his dad is dead. That seems a bit weird to have us learn here. And it could have been a way bigger idea if that was more integrated, you know? Imagine if Mufasa was feeling guided by a constellation all movie, like some sort of guardian angel on his shoulder, believing it to be his mother in some sort of spiritual form, only to learn around about now that it was his father the whole time, recontextualizing all prior scenes, or even mending the relationship Mufasa thinks he has with his father from the start of the movie, you know? I feel there's something there to be bigger, more than just, hi, I'm your mum, and alive, you are king. Also, your dad's dead. Why don't you talk to the bird now? He's waiting in line. From there, the movie ends with roaring at the community. The circle of life, be damned. This is a small curve of it at most. The fact that the original Lion King starts and ends with the same scene works for the idea of the circle, but here we have the sequel plotline, which usually, when doing a back and forth story, the narrative of the past reflects the narrative of the future. Maybe the kid learns something along the way, or overcomes a similar trial to the past. But no, Kiara goes out and applies an idea that was learned from an entirely different story Rafiki told. Before the Mufasa bit starts, he describes the lions roaring on the roof, and that is what Kiara ends on. It's nice Mufasa appears in the clouds, slightly joining, but that spiritual element is lost in almost every other facet of the movie. It's not enough to ascend to the level of the legacy of The Lion King, and that's the biggest shame. Because we all hate live-action Disney remakes. They are the least creative output of movies, creating soulless rehashes that the masses just eat up. And this was a chance at something new, an original under the remake lens. This could be a creative opening for all future remakes. Imagine if they made sequels out of every Disney princess movie. It could open up to genuinely creative, valid storytelling. It's new. In a weird way, I'd be hyped for some sort of collab princess story with multiple princesses. They've established a modern cast after all, and this could have been the stepping stone of that. But considering they can't even commit to CGI Stitch getting onto another CGI remake's background, I don't have high hopes for it existing. And there's elements of artistic flourish. Barry Jenkins is a good director, but in this, he's diluted. There's him saying it's the best thing he's ever made, where I can barely hear that it's his work. There are these great, long, choreographed camera shots throughout the movie, but the narrative is just poorly executed. There's room for great ideas here, even in this exact story, but it's just not focused in the right places for long enough. This is, surprise, surprise, just another Disney remake movie, which had the potential to be something new and refreshing, but it's really, really not. It's always been an easy moneymaker, even with all the over-polished holdings back, and a general audience will lap it up anyway. At the end of my screening at the cinemas, I heard a couple teens behind me saying it was an absolute masterpiece. It's palatable. The CGI looks great and the lions can express themselves more than before. I still managed to lose who was who, but that's more because I'm colorblind and couldn't spot the grey hairs that well. And the story is fine, but in itself it could have been elevated in so many corners. And against the iconic source material of the original, even if that is just Hamlet anyway, this has far less of the magic, the soul, and the spiritual themes that ascend this universe's story to beyond just a simple human story. A story of life itself. And Mufasa, the Lion King, is simply a story. A story to add to the collection of mass production. And I was a fool for expecting anything more from it. Chances are it will make way too much money, and hey, maybe that, in a backwards kind of way, opens up as a stepping stone for more original stories on top of soulless Disney remakes. I guess we'll have to see. For now, though, my name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this review. I'm gonna get out of this bed cover. I am sweating out of my nose. And I shall see you all in a little bit.